Welcome to the Swedish Transformers podcast. It's me, Linda, the loyal Autobot.
And me, Gustav, the more treacherous kind of Decepticon.
And Brian, our guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm an artist, and I've worked on the Transformers comic, and also G.I Joe and Doctor Who, and now I'm doing a lot of my own work through Indiegogo, and I draw a whole lot, and that's where I spend my day, right here in the studio doing art stuff, and occasionally a podcast.
That studio is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, Brian, you worked previously on More Than Meets the Eye and other Transformers comics book where you did inking.
Mm-hmm.
And also G.I Joe, Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Ghostbusters.
I did do a Ghostbusters cover. That was a fun one.
Yeah, it looked beautiful. You also have a YouTube channel, and you stream from time to time there. And you work on your own comic book, Thunderpunch. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? I'm really curious.
So Gunship Thunderpunch is kind of my, I was a huge transforming robot fan as a kid in the 80s, and I just wanted to do my own version of that, giant mech transforming Martian kind of sci-fi story. So in about a year and a half ago, I crowdfunded the first book, Gunship Thunderpunch, which is about a woman whose son is kidnapped by Martians. And in order to get him back, she has to recruit the help of a convict and get a transforming gunship from the junkyard that's been abandoned for 30 years. So he's not happy about that. And they go off to get her son back. But, of course, things go wrong. So the first book came out. I finished shipping it last year. I'm getting ready to launch book 2, which the books are about 80 pages. So they're, big, thick stories. And it's going to launch on March 26th, which is a week from tomorrow. Ooh. So I'm fixated on getting all the elements. That's what I've been working on for the last few weeks. So I've been doing on my live stream, just getting all the cover done and all these various pieces to the puzzle of putting a campaign together. So that's what I'm working on right now, in the middle of trying to catch up on commissions and ship art out and all that stuff. So I'm a little busy.
Yeah.
How long does the campaign last?
I'm going to run it for 30 days. I may extend it a little bit. What the nice thing about Indiegogo is that I can set it to in demand. So as the book's being finished up and printing and everything, people can still get in. So at least a month, maybe a little bit more. So that's the plan. That's what I did last time. I left it up for, I think the in demand was up for several months, but I'm trying to get everybody in to get in early, because that helps the campaign, helps trick those algorithms that rule our world. So
yeah,
you have to play the algorithm game. So
and if you miss the first one, you can get it on this campaign too.
Yeah, I'll have plenty. If you missed the first one, you can get the first book. And actually, I'm going to have actually I can show you here. So the first book, if you're familiar with, since this is a Transformers podcast, Alex Milne's work on More Than Meets the Eye, he did a cover for book 1. He's also going to do a 5-page backup story in this one, and so that's the size, a lot of story there. I'll also be able to get my I'm in the process of fulfilling this one now, my art book, which is 120 pages of these are just like commissions and random things in here, and I also have a volume 1 of that, so you can get a big stack of books from me from this and get all caught up. If you're not familiar, you don't have any of my work or whatnot, you can get a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to make it worth people's while.
Awesome.
Nice. I will most definitely back that.
Thanks. Awesome.
Yeah. In the More Than Meets the Eye, would you like to talk about that, or should we maybe? I'm sorry, did I go forward too much? I'll ask it anyway. Sorry.
In the More Than Chaos strikes again.
I know. I just have to. In the More Than Meets the Eye, you were doing the inking. It was not just the covers, right? It was all over the book, right?
Yeah, I did interiors, interior pages. So I did that over mostly Alex, occasionally Brendan Cahill, and I actually started the first one I did was Robots in Disguise over Andrew Griffith.
Yeah.
So that was the I did 4. I remember doing 4 issues of that, and that's the first Transformers thing I did. And then just from issues like 12 here and there all the way up through, I think, 40 or 50 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And then I got put on G.I Joe, and then I was there for 50 issues or so. So yeah, Transformers was fun. Alex, it's interesting how Alex is very detailed, and so that some of his pages could take a while. Take a while to ink.
Yeah. One question before Gustav takes over with the Transformers questions. You are on Webtoon, right?
I am on Webtoon. I have a book called William the Last, and I originally didn't make it for Webtoon. It's being published through Antarctic Press, but I reformatted it a bit and put it up there. And at some point, I got stuck around, a few thousand viewers, and then Webtoon, I guess it was one of their staff picks, and then it shot up. But it's one of those projects where I kind of have to do it in between other things. So it's a fantasy story about a young boy that his grandfather dies. He grows up on an island alone with his grandfather. He climbs to the top of this mountain, and he finds himself in this kingdom where a tyrant rules, and the people are in hiding, and William's name has been forbidden from being spoken. So it's kind of a King Arthurish Return of the King type story. But again, it's one of those things. I'm 2 issues away from finishing up the Antarctic Press run, but I have to get Thunderpunch done first. So juggling all these different things there, and eventually I'd like to do a collected book campaign for that. But that's in the future. We'll get there. But yeah, it's up on Webtoon. There's a lot of story up on Webtoon. So if you're over there, you can search for William the Last and read that. And I get emails from people say, I just finished reading it, and then they'll see that I haven't updated, and they're like, when am I gonna get the next one? I'm like, it's coming. So I've got almost half the next issue done, but like I said before, I'm just one guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Juggling things and stuff. So
yeah, Webtoon is a beautiful app, actually, at least when it comes to the phone, that you can just scroll forever and watch a comic book, and I love that. I have a comic there myself. Don't watch it, please. It's terrible.
What is it? You gotta tell me now.
I don't know. I'm more of an artist than a writer, so it's like the story is really bad, and it's just like 2 or 3 episodes before I was like, I cannot do a story. It sucks. I have to find someone.
You get better by doing it. You just got to keep doing it.
I know, but it's embarrassing. I have to do a Webtoon that isn't under my name, so I can do all my mistakes.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was it. You are like everywhere, Webtoon, and we'll send the links, of course, but like Webtoon and YouTube and Instagram and Twitch and everywhere. Do you have any other secrets that you want to share?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I try to do the promotion thing, and when you get to a certain point where you're depending on art for a living, you really have to put on your business and marketing hat, and I'm getting better at that. And part of that is, unfortunately, being on all the social media platforms. So I'm actually starting to actually it was the lady who edited Thunderpunch is going to start doing some of my promoting stuff, handling just the promotional posts, so I can not have to do that every day. So I'm kind of at a point where I can here and there say, hey, could you help me with this? But I'm at a point where I have to divide up my day and say, okay, for 20 minutes I'm scheduled post to go out to all the different places, and then I have to get away and then focus on the work, because you can get sucked into doing the whole marketing social media thing, and then before you know it, the day's gone and you haven't drawn anything. So
yeah.
So you got to be careful, but it's one of those necessary evils, I guess. You have to promote it, but you also have to be careful you don't get sucked down the rabbit hole and don't come up for air.
Yeah, there has to be some sort of a balance too.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm actually one of those who, in the past at least, I did all of that stuff in one day. I was like every month I'm sending out this stuff and or every week depending on what it was. But like it's really taking time and it's a struggle and then the algorithm has to be on your side. It's like the force from the Star Wars. It's like it has to be with you.
Well, that's kind of my experience with Webtoon, right? It's like I put that up there, and it did okay organically, and then it froze. But when I mean, I think I'm up to 20-some thousand subscribers, but that only happened because Webtoon took their spotlight and shined it just for a second over here.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with YouTube and the trick, but you know, it's frustrating. But I'm also trying at this point. Building up I'm putting more attention in building up my email list so that people can, you know, that there's no algorithm. There's, you know, if you can build that up, it's direct contact with people that are interested in your work. So that does pretty well. I think that's something that we've overlooked as artists, just because when social media came on the scene, we kind of abandoned our own websites and we abandoned our blogs, and we all went to Twitter, we all went to Instagram. And then now we're kind of frustrated. But, you know, back, you know, the early 2000s, the email list was like the thing, and we kind of got away from that, but it still works and it's direct, you know, with your audience. So I'm kind of getting back into that. So I have a mailing list that I'm trying to once a week, you know, not spamming people, but I think once a week, every Monday or Tuesday, something will go out.
Yeah, that's more than enough. I think I would maybe sign up for that mailing list after this one. I think. Definitely.
Yeah, but everything is not art on your channels. I think paranormals is something totally different. What is that?
Well, you know, at a certain point, I realized my business, I guess, is, and I'm technically a business, is making just entertainment content stuff, and comics is part of that. And paranormals, I've actually put it on a separate channel, just trying to, you know, build it up, play the algorithm thing, because I view YouTube, my channel, in a way that YouTube doesn't like, where ideally it would be like a television station where you just have different content and people can come and watch different things. But the reality is people want one thing per channel, and for some reason we've forgotten how to watch things, and I don't know. But Paranormals is just a goofy show where me and my buddy Elliot Fernandez look at crazy paranormal ghosts stories, and then just weird stories in the news, and kind of make fun of it. And it's kind of developed this whole kind of mythology as the people in the chat. And so we have the Paranormals Institute is run by Michael Caine, and so I'll do a little Michael Caine impression, and he'll call in and stuff. So it's kind of but bringing it back to comics, where Elliot is an artist as well, so we actually are hashing out some plans for a Paranormals comic that would be, you know, just a small thing for the fans of the show. And so yeah, the people who watch it seem to like it. It's hard to market though, because some people watch it and don't understand that it's a parody, and they're like, "Are y'all serious?" I'm like, "Oh, we got a branding problem if you think this is serious." It's like, no, Michael Caine did not actually call in.
But it's a really cute, you know, waiting film before.
Yeah. Yeah. I find obscure films and old commercials that are really weird, and we'll work them in somehow. So we've gotten a little better with the production. So when we had we've broken it up into seasons. So season 2, we had COVID Commander take credit for COVID, and we have a very crude animated little segment where COVID Commander breaks in, and you know, it's just limited animation, but I think it works. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. My favorite, I think, of all your shows was beginning of COVID, when you did a live drawing of the, you know, the toilet paper superhero dude.
Oh yeah. yeah. That was that must have been right at the beginning of it.
Yeah, when everybody was collecting toilet paper.
Yeah. Spoiler, that didn't solve the problem.
Oh, big surprise.
Yeah. Well, Gustav, I'll leave all the Transformers questions to our guest now.
All right.
You're free to roam.
Oh, my time to shine.
Hmm?
I think you have heard many of these questions 1,000 times before. I'm sorry for that, but I hope I can surprise you with something, maybe.
All right.
First off, are you an Decepticon or an Autobot fan?
Yeah, I go back and forth between these. I would say that as a kid, I always liked the Decepticons better because they had jets. So
jets before cars, then.
Yeah. You get there faster. I always thought it was weird in the 80s show when something would happen somewhere and the Autobots would roll out and then they'd just be there. Like, y'all are in like Oregon or somewhere, aren't you? That's going to take... How did you get there so fast driving?
Yeah, I have noticed that about the G1 cartoon. You just have to accept things.
Yeah, just ignore that.
If you were a Transformers character yourself, who would it be?
If I were a Transformer character myself, I would say probably I wouldn't be Decepticon because I wouldn't want to have to deal with Megatron and Starscream. So I would be an Autobot, and I would probably be Hound, maybe. I always liked Hound, but I always have a soft spot for Mirage because he was my favorite toy. But it's hard to be in disguise as a Formula One race car.
You stick out a little bit.
A little bit, and you're not street legal, so you couldn't drive around. If you're Hound, at least you'd go on-road and off-road.
Oh.
But you can drive away from the cops, so
That's
it's not
right.
illegal unless you get caught.
That's right. I can make a little hologram of a driver because he could do that. So
yeah. So that's your favorite Transformer also?
I think Mirage is my favorite. Yeah.
And your relationship to the Transformers franchise, how did it all begin?
Well, I mean, I'm second grade or something when the show came out originally in 83? Was it? Yeah.
It's a little different from the US and Sweden, so...
Yeah. So I remember watching it for the very first time at, the G1 cartoon, and I was in elementary school. I was super into Transformers, and that was my favorite thing. And so then by the time I was in, I guess, middle or high school, you start, there was a period where you kind of transition out of toys and you're growing up and stuff. And then by college, I was like, man, I remember renting the Transformers movie from '86 in college. The first time I had seen it, I think, since I was a kid. And then I remember, digging up my toys and making sure, because I still have, they're on the other side of the monitor, but I have all my old Transformer G1 toys set up over here. And then I remember Dreamwave, I think it was, came out with the comic in 2000, early 2000s. And I remember being super excited that they're going to do a G1, because I wasn't into Beast Wars and I guess it was the 90s. So I'm a G1 fan. I like that. I like with IDW, the thing I liked about when they their run is that the robots for the most part look G1 based, like they're updated, but you can still tell who's who. I'm not a fan of the Michael Bay movies. I think they look like hot garbage, but the robots just look like piles of trash rolling around. So. And incidentally, the first Transformers book I ever worked on at all was I was helping out on a Transformers movie, Michael Bay version, like a prequel book. And they could not keep anybody on those books. Nobody wanted to draw those because they were just so complicated and so much going on. So that's kind of where I land on things.
Yeah. Were there a favorite comic book you worked on you can remember from the Transformers franchise?
Favorite one I worked on? I think it was the one that stands out was probably around 45 or so. I remember a big double page spread with Titans, some of the Metro Titans. But I can't remember what that miniseries was called. was it? I think it was Dark Cybertron. I think it was one of those books. So I really had fun working on those because I just liked the scale of, you have the Metro Titans and the other bots. I just liked that juxtaposition. So that one stands out.
Yeah. This don't have to be a Transformers related, but is there any writer you have been preferred to draw his stories? Or hers?
Let's see. You know, I think I like working on my own stories as far as stories go. Especially as an inker, you don't really get a script that much. I do like working with Larry Hama when I do G.I. Joe because he works plot style. So there's a lot more freedom. So he'll break down a page. It's just 5 little tiny paragraphs that say what's going on. And you're free to kind of, you know, within that, work out how you see it. And then he'll take it and look at what you did. So it's kind of like Marvel did back in the day. You know, they would just get a plot and then the artist would draw it and then Stan Lee would look at it. Then he'd do the dialogue. So I enjoy that more than the highly detailed stuff that just about every writer will give you now. So then that's kind of how when I'm doing my own stuff, like I write it, but it's very organic. So when I go to draw my own things, it's very plot style. So I would say Larry's the way Larry writes fits just the way I work in general.
Yeah. If you have to choose between the G.I. Joes and the Transformers, what's your choice?
Transformers was always my favorite. And G.I. Joe was a close second. Those were the two things I was most into as a kid. And just as it turned out, I got to work on both those books for IDW. But and of course, I mean, I liked Thundercats and all the 80s stuff. But G.I. Joe and Transformers, you know, as far as toys, those were what I had most of. So I would have to lean just a little bit more Transformers than G.I. Joe.
Yeah. Did you like the crossover comic?
There's the crossover comic out of all of them that have, there's been different iterations. I really liked the one, and I don't remember much of the story. I think I like the concept more, was the World War II version. I don't know if you all remember that, where it happened in World War II and the Autobots and the Joes are all, you know, American soldiers in World War II. And the robots are these versions that are like turning into, of course, World War II era things. So I thought that was just interesting. And then there was one, I think was, I can't remember what it was called. I don't remember, but there was an updated one where, I can't remember, I think it was it Optimus that turned into a Hiss tank? I think that's right. Anyway,
I can't remember. It's been ages when I watched.
Yeah, they've been so long ago, but yeah, I mean, I do like that they're in the same, you know, universe from time to time, anyway.
Yeah. If you could choose any other crossover with the Transformers, what would it be?
That's a good question.
There have been a lot of recently. Like,
yeah.
I think the most previous lot was My Little Ponies or Back to the Future.
Sonic.
No,
I know they've done Angry Birds.
Yet.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just rooting for that one.
I think, you know, so many things have been done at this point. I think it would be kind of funny to have Gobots crossover with Transformers. I don't know if it's been done, but I know that technically now I think Hasbro owns Gobots, so they're technically in the same universe.
Yeah.
I remember reading something at one point where, you know, they've hashed out that Gobotron is one of the multiverse versions of Cybertron and stuff. So I think it would be kind of funny to. I think it would have to be kind of tongue in cheek because the Gobots are a little goofy. Yeah. And I liked Gobot. I had a lot of Gobots, so I can say that.
Yeah. Now to a little more difficult. Everybody asks you, you know, your favorite that, but I will ask you this instead. I'm more for the dark stuff. Your worst nightmare you can remember working on the Transformers franchise?
Worst nightmare. Let's see. There was. Let me think here. Because you tend to block out and forget the stuff that wasn't fun. I do remember a double-page spread taking 3 days. And I think that would have been in Dark Cybertron as well. but it was just so much going on. And it was one of those things that was just taking forever. And then you're getting emails from your editor. Hey, where are you with this? Where you're like, I'm doing the best I can. This thing is crazy. And I think Alex probably drew it because he does a lot of tiny detail. Other than that, just being more of a challenge. That it wasn't like, oh, this page is horrible. I mean, it was a great page. It was just labor intensive. Other than that, nothing really stands out as being like a nightmare.
It can be a story about something also.
Transformers related, you mean, like on the comic?
Or if you have anything else that comes to mind, that's good too.
Well, I will say it was always a little frustrating, I think, for all of us Transformer artists that when you go to San Diego Comic-Con, we would do signings, and I would always get left out officially, and then the editor would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they would always make a place for me, but that was kind of a running thing. Every year I was like, I know there's going to be a signing, and then I'm going to be left out. But I always said I'm going to show up anyway. But the thing that was frustrating for all of us was that there were not a lot of Transformer fans that would come by for the signing. We would just all be sitting there. And I think that was actually true for most IDW. I think that was true for most comic signings in general, because San Diego is just such a media event more than a comic book event at this point. So that was always, one of those things where it's like, no, there's a sign. And even when I was, you're invited to a signing, you know what you're going to get. It basically became an excuse for us to go sit at a table together and hang out. And then one or two people would come by. But then you would have, I was trying to remember what book. I think it was when, I know My Little Pony probably did really well. And there was another book that came out at that time, around that time. I don't know if it was Jim or something, but something got a lot of hype. And there was a line around the booth for it, but it wasn't for us. So,
yeah. Will we ever see you doing Transformers again officially?
I don't know. With publishing and it's kind of like with G.I. Joe. It's very easy to get, and I think every business is like this, that if you find someone that does something and they do it well and they do it on time, that person kind of gets stuck doing that. And for me, that thing was more G.I. Joe than Transformers. Because I know other artists and even other writers were trying to do other things, and it was very difficult for them to get out of whatever books they were onto a different book. But it's very random when IDW, you come up on the list and they call you. So like with G.I. Joe, for example, I was on G.I. Joe for monthly for like 6 years, which is a long time to be on a book these days. Not many people do that anymore. But once we got out of that, me and the penciler got out of that rotation, it was just, I think they asked me to pencil an issue in 2019, and then I didn't hear from them for a year. Then all of a sudden, hey, would you do this issue? And so it's like, they're juggling a lot of stuff and a lot of people, so there's just no way to know. Which is why I think as an artist, you really need to start building up your own brand and doing your own books, and you can't rely necessarily on a company. Some people could. I think it was easier in the past to do that, but these days, there's no excuse not to. You've got access to all these different social media things and an audience, so you really got to take your career in your own hands at a certain point. So.
Yeah, because you obviously still like drawing robots with Gunship Thunderpunch.
Yeah, and I kind of get that out of my system with it, and I own that. So I'm not just cashing the check and going on about my life. I can actually do things with it. So
yeah. I have a question though. I'm not so familiar with working with comic books, especially when it comes to like the big comic books companies. But is it like, if they want you to do a work, it's more of a mission than a employment?
Yeah, it's all freelance. So it's you get a contract. You're doing this job. You get paid this amount, and then when it's done, you're done. Like you're technically unemployed, I guess. Until you get the next job. And I was really spoiled because I worked on G.I. Joe for so long that I was getting work every month, and it was just kind of like G.I. Joe Real American Hero was on autopilot for the most part. Like Shannon, the penciler, had his thing down, I had my thing down. Colorist Jim Brown, we were just like the machine, and one of the editors said that, it's like, we know you're going to get done. So the downside to that was we didn't get a lot of attention, and so they were dealing with whatever's on fire, and we were just kind of in the background cranking out books. But again, that will spoil you, because you kind of like, well, here, I'll do my book this month and then cash that check. But then all of a sudden, when that was gone, I was lucky that there was some talk of maybe at some point of the book being canceled, or several years in, and it must have been, I think it was before they killed Snake Eyes, because that boosted sales again. But so I knew in the back of my mind, this is not going to last forever. And so once even that idea got floated in, even though it was years, it still hasn't been canceled. It still hasn't happened. But they're always doing the business, running the numbers, and seeing what's what. But I realized, okay, that's when I actually started doing YouTube. I needed to promote myself more. So I made an effort to start promoting myself and building up a business from a marketing standpoint and all that. So that's starting to pay off. Well, it has paid off, because I've done 2 things for IDW in the last 2 years. But I'm making a living doing my own books, but that it's just getting up to that point, so it takes time.
Yeah. To any new artists out there, I can just say that from my experience, you always need a plan A, B, and C.
Yeah.
If even more, maybe, that you have your art career or your art dreams, and you have to have your work beside that. Like me in the metal industry, it's a struggle to work as an artist, and you need to have a plan A, which is the job that actually pays your food and your bills.
Mm-hmm.
And plan B should be your art, because you can't always rely on that.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Well, when I was breaking into comics, I had made a decision before I had my son. So it was, I taught school for a couple years, and then I decided, well, if I'm ever going to try to break into comics, I need to do it now. So I was working part-time at Starbucks. So I'd go in, I would open Starbucks at 5 a.m. I'd be done at 10, and then I would go into the studio and work till that night. And so I did that for about almost 5 years before I got some traction, and then I got Doctor Who and that. So that worked out. But the thing that has really let me be able to make it as an artist and make a living is, a couple things. One is building up an audience or a name just doing G.I. Joe and Transformers, but also interacting with people online over time. And so I'll do commissions. Gustav's got commissioned some art from me before. So just having positively interacting with people and building up kind of that audience over time. And so you kind of, then you can say, hey, here's my book, support my book, or like, and then if you think, money gets tight for example, I'm generally open for commissions, but if I'm like, when I'm working on the campaign, I'll kind of shut them down. But, this past fall, we had a big major home repair emergency thing, like water pipe burst.
Oh, shit.
So I had to go on YouTube and on Twitter. I just said, look, we have emergency. I'm open for commissions, right? And within a week, I had enough to pay for that. So but that's only because I've spent the last 10 years developing my social media presence and interacting with people. And it's mostly, a lot of it was repeat customers. And so, you gotta be able to, I think, figure out, okay, what are the different ways you can make income as a business? And okay, there's commissions, and then there's crowdfunding, and then there's working for IDW, and then there's Patreon, and you're trying to get all these different streams. So that's when you have to put on your business hat and think like an actual, legitimate, marketer. And so, and that's not something that comes naturally to artists. We have to learn that.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to learn it. They just want to sit there and draw. And it's like, if you're the kind of you're like, who doesn't, right?
Yeah, I know.
shower me with money, and while I just sit here and draw. But it's like, if that's all you want to do, you will never. It's just not going to work, right? You're not unless that's like 1 in 100,000, 1 in a million. Well, that'll happen to everybody else. You have to figure out how to promote your stuff. So you have to divide up your time.
Yeah, unless you get like those, what is it called, a art dealer.
Yeah.
But he's gonna take like 50%, or she is gonna take like 50% of your income. So you better do some good art to be able to afford that. And then there's the paperwork too. That's gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah, that's true. And last year, I actually did the whole business thing and made a company, and it's like there's paperwork with that too, and then I have to do taxes. Oh, now I got to pay payroll tax for myself and it's just there's no way around that. So I think it's figure out what's going to work best for you, whether it's with an art dealer or if you want to make your work for yourself. But again, at a certain point, you've got to say, well, I gotta do the paperwork thing, the thing that I don't want to do. So.
Yeah. We all have to do that. I mean, it's grown-up life.
Yep.
Gustav, sorry, continue with your Transformers.
You can go with art questions now, I think, Linda.
Is it my art question time? Okay. Well, so Brian, I see that you work mostly digital.
I'm more and more, yeah. I mean, I still do traditional, but it's going back to that. I'm just one guy. It's faster, and if I'm doing something for publishing, it's just. Especially for my own work, it's just saves a lot of time.
So the comic book that you're doing, it's digital done.
For the most part, like I did ink the cover because I'll sell those, and the way I worked it out is because with crowdfunding there will be a perk where if you want an original art page, and so what I'll do is I'll see how many of those people buy, and I'll draw. That's all I'm drawing by hand, so it's going to be a very limited thing. The rest of it will be digital because it's just faster and it'll get the book done to everybody else faster.
Yeah.
So.
I see you sell some of your original art of the G.I Joe on your homepage.
Yeah, I did. I have a big stack of pages left over from years of being on G.I Joe.
I think Wyatt told us that also when we interviewed him. He got boxes. He says, "I don't know what to do with them."
Yeah, the thing is, if I did sell a bunch of them on eBay. I was putting them up on eBay just to make space. But the trick is finding the right collector and and then they'll come in, and there's the people who will buy big batches, and that's nice, and then there's people that will show up every time you have something new. So I'm always trying to find those people.
What are your inking tools? What were your inking tools back in the time?
I still draw. When I just sit around and sketch, I still do traditional. I've got sketchbooks all over the place and commissions and stuff. But I'll use the Pentel pocket brush, and this is what I tell everybody. I do love that brush pen, but you can't use the ink that's in it because the ink that comes with it is not great. I refill it with Rapidograph ink, so you can take a little cartridge out and refill it. And then I'll use either red or blue Goldfaber colored pencils to sketch, or a Blackwing pencil. And then I'll just use like the Pitt artist pens. And if I'm feeling really fancy, I'll use like the Raphael brush and dip it in India ink. But I don't do that as much anymore. I did it when I was inking other people, just because I when I was learning to ink, I spent 5 years physically in a studio space with inkers, mostly inkers from Marvel and DC, and so that was that very slick kind of tight inking style. So that's kind of what I learned how to ink, and so when I ink other people, I know that's what they're looking for. But when I'm very loose, typically, and gestural with my work, so I have to I kind of save the brush for when I'm doing things for other people.
Yeah. Is it like what was the inking tools back in the time? Was it like the pencil?
Winsor Newton Series 7 and the Hunt 102 Crow Quill. I have some of those I'll use too.
Yeah.
But I think and then people would use repeatograph pens. Those are high maintenance too. I had some of those. Those are they clog up and everything. But yeah.
So what artists do you look up to these days?
I like a lot of Alex Toth. Some of the older artists I'll look at now. I know when I was growing up, I didn't really pay attention to names. I just knew, I like this art, and I like this art. And then I later figured out who I was looking up to. So it was like Neil Adams, and I really like Jose Garcia Lopez. And he's kind of come back. He's getting a little more attention now. He was the guy that did the style guides for DC back in the day. So if you have anything from the early 80s or whatever that's Batman, it's kind of his design. So I love some of his stuff. And Alex Toth, I love Michael Ringo. He passed away in 2007. He's had a more cartoony style. So I like Bruce Timm. So I like, I tend to lean towards more cartoony or simplified things. So yeah, that's I'm always looking for good art books that from different artists, and that's usually where I land. I really like a lot of some of the French graphic novels, or tomes, I guess they call them. And that's the nice thing about San Diego, is you find things that, like, dealers there, that books I just can't find anywhere else. And a lot of times they'll have them oversized and just the inks, like the black and white version of the book. And those are nice because you can see where they put white out to make corrections and stuff. So you can see Mobius, like, I bought a Western of his, and it's like you can see where he took the white and changed things and stuff. So I love that.
Mobius, again, one of my favorite artists. Yeah, love him. But yeah, like, when it comes to the conventions and stuff, is there like any people coming towards you and being like, hey, would you give me inspiration or look at my sketchbook or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, people come by and said, "Will you look at my stuff?" Or of course not since there are no conventions so much anymore. They're starting to come back. I did do a show a couple weeks ago, but things are starting to open up. But people will come and bring their work, and I get a lot of younger people from places like SCAD's, the Savannah College of Art and Design, or some different art schools, and they'll want you to look at their stuff. And so that's always interesting, because sometimes you'll find people that are so good. Like, I did a presentation at a school, and she brought her stuff up, and she was getting ready to go to Savannah to study art. And her stuff was so good, she could have gotten work right away. It's like, why are you going to school? Like, you don't waste the money. And then there's people you'll come up who are in school or are graduated in art school, and their stuff is so bad that you just like, I got to figure, like, I want to be nice. But what I'm thinking is, you graduated? Okay. So you see the gamut of stuff. So when I'm looking at art books, I'm usually trying to, when people show me their art, I try to pick one thing that they're doing well, and then one thing to work on, because they're not going to really remember but one or two things that you tell them anyway. So that's kind of my approach.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't seen a lot of sketchbooks from other people, but like, it's amazing how some people are just flying like no tomorrow, and they have these amazing skills, and it's like, you're like 15, you're not supposed to be here yet.
Yeah. Those people are like, just go get work, just make your own stuff right now, skip that middle part, you're already there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, anyway, how do you feel that your art has evolved during the years drawing robots or G.I. Joe?
Well, the biggest thing was, and I had a friend that asked me this, because there was a certain point, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, where I just got a lot better, and he asked me what I did, and the thing that was the biggest thing that changed my art, because I mentioned being a little bit more jet loose, is that early on, I think everybody trying to break into American comics does this, that they look at Marvel and DC and say, okay, how do I draw to get work at these two companies? And so then you're drawing the superhero style. And when I was coming up, I talked about things being very slick and very rendered and very detailed. And I, for a long time, was drawing how I thought I should draw to get work at Marvel and DC. So all my stuff looked very stiff. And at a certain point, just from frustration and from, I think, looking at some other artists who just had different styles, I was like, I'm just going to draw however I want. And once I did that, I kind of found what came more naturally. And so I got better, faster. So now I tend to even the stuff that looks very finished, my approach is more, I'm not obsessing necessarily over every line like I used to. I'm just trying to make the whole image work. And if things look, I tend to be a little more, not cartoonish, but cartoony, I guess, simplified or whatever, going back to like Alex Toth, who was always trying to simplify things. So I think that's the biggest thing that's changed for me in the last, 8 years or so. So it's like, at a certain point, you're like, this is the way I draw, and I'm never going to draw Superman, or I'm never going to draw Batman, but I'm going to do what I want to do. So, and I think it's worked out.
Beautiful. Yeah. When you started drawing Transformers, were there any part that you thought were like hard, like any art struggles within that subject?
The only thing, the first thing I noticed was that different pencilers when I was drawing Transformers and figuring out how to draw a robot. One of the biggest struggles is that, when you're drawing humans, there's basic human anatomy. So there's, in general, I mean, people are different person to person, but you have measurements where the eyes are like one eye width here, and the head is in proportion to this. That doesn't work with robots. So especially the bigger, so it's almost like you had to figure out, okay, that you basically have to look at every robot as an individual and say, how is Optimus Prime's proportions? How is, Devastator's proportions? So after a while, you kind of, you figure out, okay, a big, powerful, strong, huge robot is going to have in proportion to his body, he's going to have a smaller head, and that's what makes his body look bigger. Kind of like the same thing with the Hulk, really, that he looks so big and his head looks really small. So you kind of get those things worked out, and just take some time. The other thing was when I was inking, I noticed some pencilers, like Andrew was very gestural in kind of his detail, and I would get in there and be like, I don't really know what he was going for. And I found out later, because this was before we were friends, but most of the Transformer artists are friends at this point, because there's only like so many of us. But I found out later, he was like, I was just kind of leaving it up to you, and he's like, yeah, I was not what I would have done, but it was fine. I was like, okay. And then you have Alex, who's just very, very precise. But so when you're going back and forth between something that's spelled out for you to something that's scribbled in, you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to do whatever I want and hope it works.
Yeah. Those were pretty much the artist questions that I had. Is there anything more you would like to fill in on that subject? Not really. Just other than, I think that the biggest thing I've learned, like I said, was just figuring out how you want to draw. Quit trying to draw like other people or copy people, and instead learning how to say, okay, here's what from this artist. Here's what I like, whether it's how they use color or the way they do this, but rather than trying to be a clone of that person, figuring out what it is you like about that and why you like it, and then seeing how you can do similar things without, just trying to draw just like so-and-so. But I think that's, there's so many artists out there that, especially in American comics, that are like, everybody draws Batman, everybody draws Wolverine this way and does this. And so figuring out how you would, if you were hired to do that book, would it just look like everything else or would it look like, wow, this would be a really interesting or jacked up looking Wolverine book, right? This would be a really weird one. But, I think that's how you get better, is you figure out how you draw, and then you draw like you. I also think that when I see, also in my own experience, but also when I see other people just trying to draw Transformers or Wolverine the same way that they do in the Marvels, it's like you can see every mistake that they've done, and it's so obvious for someone like with our eyes. We can just see that that's not really right proportions. That's why I'm like trying to just give up and just trying to do me, pretty much when it comes to Transformers, like and stuff like that. And I had people coming to me since I'm still so very young in this industry of art. People just like, oh, you should draw Transformers in the way that they have in The Lost Light or something like that. I'm like, I can't because I'm not good with perspective. But also like, I just can't because I'm not that artist. And I think a lot of artists should just learn that it's okay to copy everything you can, but you have to break away from that.
Yeah. There's definitely learning, I mean, even hundreds of years ago, it's always been in painting. The masters would copy other masters. That's how they learned.
Yeah.
And then once they learned, how those things were made, then they would do, they would just kind of morph and develop into how they did it, their style. So.
Yeah.
I've almost got the cave painting done now. I think I'm at that level.
Hey, you can get famous for that, like they got the cave painting in France.
Yeah, exactly.
You paint it there, let it sit long enough, and you're famous.
Exactly. Cave paintings for life, dude.
Well, I will be remembered.
That's right.
And I think now it's time to decide what we would. We have a couple more questions for you, so don't run away, Brian. Okay. But first, we will have to do something we call spin the wheel, Jack.
Okay.
Where we will decide our next topic. That's always at random.
Okay.
So I will split my screen with you in a second. It's always lagging on this site.
Skype is such a beautiful program when it comes to sharing screens.
Wonderful.
It's in Swedish, but we can translate it.
Most, I think he can understand.
I think so too.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Then I will let it rip.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This means we will next episode talk about who became Cyclonus.
Oh.
That's a classic topic.
Yeah. Who became which? I know. I know it's either one of two people. I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it's either Thundercracker or Shrapnel or Bombshell.
I think it's Skywarp or Bombshell.
Was it Skywarp? I thought it was Thundercracker.
Oh.
Thundercracker became Scorch.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the scene in my head. I can see the morphing, but
I'm cheating because last week we talked about Thundercracker in the episode. So.
Oh, okay.
So it's fresh in mind.
Now let me. So I'm guessing that you have definite opinions on who became.
Yeah, but we will also try to dive deep in what the fans on the internet say and talk about some theories.
I'm gonna say it was Skywarp.
Because
and
of
the reason is because if I remember the scene correctly, he's in front. He's closest to the viewer. And so, they mentioned Cyclonus. So I think I'm going to go with that because visually it would make sense in the scene.
Yeah, because there's a little twist in that scene because they say Cyclonus and his armada, so it's a clone of Cyclonus in the background. So it's but we will talk about that next episode.
Interesting.
But we will weigh in your point, sir.
Your point is valid.
Exactly. And talking about points, Linda, you usually do the quote. But I think our guest should do it this week.
That's what our guests always do.
Yeah. Can you explain it?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So usually I take a quote from the Transformers. If you're talking about Thundercracker, I'm taking a Thundercracker
Okay.
quote. But now it's in Transformers in general.
Okay.
So you are welcome to give us a quote from the Transformers. And Gustav, who did the other quotes?
We have lite E.J. Sue did One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall.
Yeah.
Andrew Wildman did Freedom is the Right of All Sentient Beings, for
Yes.
examples.
Mm.
I can't remember Budiansky's because he
He took
snatched
a-
one of his originals and just read it.
Yeah, he took a Grimlock quote from a random comic book.
Oh.
So, Brian, give us a quote.
A quote. I've got to. I have a couple favorite Starscream quotes from G1 that are just ridiculous, and I think I'm trying to get it just right. Hold on. One just. Well, one I can remember is I think he said I should be in sole command of everything, and the other one that I always think it's funny is it's so whiny. Is he basically says you didn't know, you didn't test it or something like that. I don't know why, I just think that's funny. I think they're from the same episode.
It's when Megatron says if I think it's the part 2 when he fires off all Megatron's energy on cubes into the mountain and says it works. I discovered it works. Yeah, we knew. You didn't know. You didn't test it.
yeah, that was it.
It's whiny.
Would you like to give us that quote? It's usually in the beginning of the podcast, so would you like to give us the quote like with energy?
and with energy?
Yeah.
You didn't know. You didn't test it.
That's wonderful.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, that was pretty much the Swedish Transformers podcast in English. With our
that
awesome.
Makes it easier on me.
Yay! With our awesome Brian, and we are so happy that you are here and share this evening with us today.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
Yeah, we hope someday we can come to the US and visit you on some convention or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Or if you're coming over to Europe somewhere, we will definitely be there.
Awesome. Yeah, I hopefully can. I've done a little show in London before. I'd like to get back when things settle down. Get back over there.
Yeah.
Or we hope to see you in Scandinavia.
Yeah, that'd be fun too. Never been.
We do have the Retcon conventions here in Sweden.
Okay.
Every year except for.
No, this
right. Yeah.
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'd love to do more. It's just I don't know what's out there. So it's good to know.
Yeah.
Did you have fun being here with us? We had a lot of fun with you. So
yeah, I did enjoy it.
So please don't say no.
This was horrible. The worst thing ever.
Gustav, behave.
No, it's always good to meet people, like actually see people that you've seen. Because I know Gustav and I have talked a little bit on Twitter and different places. So it's good to actually put humanness to screen names.
Yeah, it's very nice to see you too. I'm more of an introvert, just doing my stuff, as an artist.
I am too. So I will probably crash as soon as this is over.
Same here.
And that's another thing artists have to learn is how to hop in and do the thing and then recover later. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Brian, I will see you around in Facebook and whatever. I will definitely contact you for future commissions and mailing list and who knows what.
And
sounds good.
The Gunship Thunderpunch.
That's right.
Of
Next
course.
Friday.
Thunder cracking punch.
No, not thunder cracking. I don't want to get sued.
Shit, sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking me.
I'll
Have
see
fun.
you guys around. Bye.
All right.